called. He can't make it, Grace.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
It's at the old Tiger Stadium. I never saw a game when it was that way.
Now call this meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hoffman?
Present.
Commissioner Asper? Absent. Commissioner Heinzerling? Absent. Commissioner Lamore?
Present.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Present.
Commissioner Swartout?
Present.
Commissioner Moore?
Present.
Commissioner Levens?
Present, and I believe the other two are excused.
Excused?
Yes.
Okay. Quorum present.
Can we now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Swartout?
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
An hour ago.
Okay, we'll now have our opening prayer.
Almighty God, may your grace cover each aspect of this meeting. We pray that all voices will be heard and that there will be a mindset of inclusivity. May this be a safe space for people to express their opinions and a place where ideas matter more than titles. May everyone be engaged and involved, and may all concerns be addressed. May each member of this team feel valued, and may each recognize the skill sets and knowledge that each person brings to the table. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now moving into approval of the agenda, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Swartout, supported by Huffman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, the approval of the minutes from June 17th, 2025 regular meeting with the waiving of the reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Levin, supported by Lamore. Are there any questions, additions, corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We now move into our public comment period of the meeting. Are there any citizens that wish to address the board?
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Dale Benicki, 2390 Doty Road in the 2nd District of the county. Tonight, I'd like to bring attention to the Project Greenstone 4,000-foot deep well that Detroit Edison is talking about drilling in Milan Township. I first heard of this project at a Milan Township meeting. There were residents from Detroit Edison and the drilling company there. And at that point, the people at the meeting were quite upset about the whole deal. They weren't getting the answers that they wanted. So it was projected to have another meeting, an informational meeting, which I had last week at Milan High School, and nothing was said at that meeting that changed the direction of the citizens. They're highly agitated and don't want this project in their neighborhood. Part of the reason for this is they've been stepped on a lot in that district, Milan area, London area, Exeter, Raysville. Their state representative was a deciding vote that took their zoning away for solar and wind. They're a rural area. There's always people coming in there wanting to put in projects without due respect to the residents. There's no municipal water system to speak of in those townships, and any kind of project such as this Greenstone project makes people feel uneasy. They have to have clean water. A lot of it's from wells. And the proximity of this well also is close to US 23. And people are quite concerned about if it's porous enough to hold CO2, is it porous enough to hold hazardous chemicals? What is the end game on this whole project with this well. Detroit Edison is not coming to the table to tell exactly what's going on. This well is going to be put in. They don't say, they want to see what's down there, but they're not saying exactly what it's for. It could be for carbon, but it may not be. They're not being open with the people about it. And it's that little bit of inconsistency that causes people to be quite upset about it. And I join with them that they have a lot on their plate for just a little township. Just to the north of them is the big project that they're talking about, the big data center, which most of the people don't want that in that area either. When you think about the residents of London Township and Milan Township, it's probably the poorest people in the county. But that's the way they like it. They want to stay there. They don't want introduction of big industry, big projects and such, because all that tax money never does trickle down to them. They're still poor. They still don't have any of the assets that the big cities have. So they're just happy to live in their own little world out there in the country. And I support them on that. So having said that, since we haven't had any representation in the 2nd District for the last year or so, and we don't have our state rep having our back either, I'm asking for a resolution of non-support from this board for this project Greenstone. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there other citizens that wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move into resolution, special tributes, and presentation. We have a presentation by Daniel Clark and Dan Merritt from Raymond regarding additional professional services related to Monroe County assigned council billings.
Good evening, council, commissioners, administration. My name is Daniel Clark. I am the partner that was responsible for the consulting project. With me tonight, I have Dan Merritt, who is the partner in charge of the county's annual audit. So today we wanted to walk through the timeline and the structure of the consulting project that was focused on evaluating the attorney invoices submitted for payment to the county related to the indigent defense. The goal of the project was to assess the accuracy and the reasonableness of build time to the county to determine best next steps that the county might want to take. Our scope was not forensic. It was a consulting, it was designed as a consulting project, nor did we have the ability to conclude on such things as actual fraud or not, which would need to be determined through the proper legal proceedings. So it was a 4-phase approach. We did project initiation, we did preliminary invoice review, we did a detailed analysis, and then we did reporting and certain recommendations. So I did want to walk through that timeline, make sure everyone is on the same page. I do believe that you received the final consulting letter about a week or two ago, but I did want to give some background on what was actually performed. So in October, the county administration reached out to Raymond requesting this project to be performed. So through October and early November, we discussed the scope of the project with the county administration, which included obtaining all the payments that were made to the indigent defense attorneys from January 1 of 2023 through December 15th of 2024. And the reason that date was picked is because when we got the initial set of data, that was the date in which we received it. So all data was provided to us at that time. We did submit a letter with the scope items that was reviewed and signed by the county administration, and that set the project in motion. So that letter was signed right before Thanksgiving of last year. So then we moved directly into the preliminary invoice review side. We did request sample invoices of certain attorneys to just determine what we would be looking at, and just the best way to accumulate the data that we needed. So that started in early December, and by the middle of December, all the invoices that we had requested were uploaded. There was some discussion back and forth right before Christmas, and then we went into the holiday break. So in early January, we did provide a status update to the county just related to certain invoices were provided in Excel, which were much more easily able to be accumulated and reviewed. Others were provided in PDF because that's how the attorney provided them. Obviously, there was significant data that had to be gone through. There was over 2,000 pages. So we then used a data mining software called Data Snipper to review all those invoices and compile it into a readable format. So again, all that was discussed in early January. We did provide a preliminary results to the county and the board on January 15th of 2025. With the analysis, this included total hours billed with the description by line item of the work that was performed. It included hours billed by day, and then we provided a weekly average and a yearly average just based on the total hours that were billed to the county. As well as it included a total cost to each attorney that is used in that fund. We did ensure that the invoices that were provided were a complete population, so we obviously wanted to make sure that if the county said they paid $1,000 to an attorney, that we had invoices supporting $1,000 or approximately that. So again, a test of the population was done, and we confirmed that to be materially correct. So we were able to move forward stating that all the information that was requested was provided. We then had a summary meeting to talk about the preliminary analysis with the county administration, and then I know they brought in a couple folks that were providing us the invoices from the court side late January. It was actually January 22nd. And then we, once that was determined and that discussion was had, we were asked to provide the details and the data sets for those items that, for those days that any attorney billed greater than 20 hours in a single day. So that information was provided to the county for them to take a look at, because those were the days specifically that we had called out saying that we would recommend that the county do a deeper dive on those items. Fast forward to March, we had reached out to the county to see if they had any further review items that they wanted us to follow up on yet. And then April 4th was when the county provided us with their preliminary results to the preliminary analysis that we had provided them. And again, that included, they had further discussions with the attorneys that were selected to find out what these anomalies were potentially showing. So they provided us the feedback that they had received from the attorneys. We took a look at it. We provided our feedback and requested some additional clarifications on April 8th. And then we had a call on May 6th with the county administration and those court employees to then go over our final questions. So then we moved into phase 4 in reporting and recommendations. May 13th, we provided their summary findings. And then throughout the month of May, we did provide comments on the county administration summary, which they put together. They did a 7-page, I believe, summary that you were also provided with the report in response to the items that we noted. We did review that to make sure there weren't any discrepancies between what we saw and what they looked at. We did not test anything in there. We just wanted to make sure there weren't any things that didn't agree to what we had initially noted. So again, no issues noted there. We did then file the final consulting letter on June 10th, and that included that summary provided by the county as well. So this structured and phased approach ensured a thorough and objective and defensible review of legal invoices to help provide the county with clarity needed to address the billings discrepancies and strengthen its oversight going forward. This resulted in processes and controls, I believe, that were already inputted by the county after their review, and I guess admin then to enhance the review of the invoices that were going to be submitted thereafter. I did want to bring up Dan Merritt quickly to just chat about his side of this, and I will let him speak quickly here.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dan Merritt. I'm the principal in charge of the county's annual financial audit. My role is to assist the county in submission of its annual financial report. The county currently submits an act for an annual comprehensive financial report. That report needs to be submitted by June 30th of each year in order to properly report to the state of Michigan on the county's activity as of December 31st. Of the fiscal year ending immediately prior. As of this point, a draft of our report has been provided to the county and is ready for submission. That report includes a summary of the findings from the consulting report and a set of recommendations to the county about additional ways to strengthen internal controls. As of today, the county has responded in detail about ways in which they intend to strengthen internal controls and prevent any future situations from occurring in this matter.
So with that, happy to entertain questions or clarifications on anything that was stated or provided.
How did the county respond? I guess I'm not familiar with what Dan was just referring to when he said the county responded on how they're going to strengthen internal controls.
The county submitted approximately, I believe, a page and a half of detailed opportunities for strengthening controls, whether that would be around invoice review or Daniel mentioned that one of the issues in reviewing some of the assigned council billings was being able to segregate data by period in appropriate way so that it was comparable, so that you can see what is the change. Is this an increase? Is this by either individual attorney or day and so the county is proposing a number of changes and also made reference to several changes that have already occurred in coordination with the court and MIDC to ensure that internal controls would be able to compare data one-to-one and review and approve invoices more effectively in the future.
When you say the county, who was that received from?
Commissioner Bosonic, or I'm sorry, Administrator
I got an
Bosonic.
upgrade.
Like,
Downgrade.
So,
Okay.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, so normally what happens if through an audit, there are recommendations from the audit team to the client. You know, our obligation is to respond to their recommendations. You know, we can have a disagreement over those. We don't have a disagreement on this. We agree with what they're recommending. So our obligation then is to prepare, you know, a more formal kind of a protocol, if you will, or a practice in our procedures to strengthen whatever the issue was that the audit team has identified. And we've done that in consultation with the MIDC office, our staff at our office, going forward in terms of how we would, you know, I guess tighten up a little bit more of the reviewing of the billings that come in from the attorneys. There are multiple eyes that see it in the MIDC office, and then when it comes to our office, we need to have an opportunity to review that as well. What Dan was talking about in terms of comparisons and benchmarks is to, you know, and it's what the MIDC is asking too. So we have the audit firm who's recommending certain things to us. We've got compliance issues with the plan through the MIDC, who is the, you know, majority funder of the entire program and services. And so we're trying to make sure that we're marrying the, you know, these obligations to the auditor, these requirements from the MIDC, so that, you know, we can mend these together, so to speak, and so we have one process, one system that meets what the auditors are suggesting that we do to strengthen internal control and yet meet the requirements of the MIDC for their monthly and their quarterly reporting. They're looking at certain things. Certainly we want to look at it in a way here that satisfies both our internal control and what the audit firm is looking for us to do. And that was our response. So that's consultation with the MIDC office and what they're doing, understanding. Now we're a beta site for the software that the MIDC is rolling out. I think we're one of 2 counties or maybe 3. Mary, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so we're beta testing that on behalf of the MIDC so that in this software that the attorneys are using and going to be using going forward, MIDC is looking for similar reporting. You know, where are you at? You know, can we look at types of cases and what's the average cost? What's the average number of hours? So if 3 attorneys bill on a, you know, breaking and entering into a non-occupied dwelling, you know, what's the cost of defending that for a criminally indigent individual? Is it 20 hours times the rate? Okay, that seems, you know, somebody had 20, somebody had 25. If somebody comes in, they got 50, we say, well, time out. Then that's the comparison that we're looking at. What's the outlier to say, we need to look at that. That's not consistent with what we should be seeing. And so that's flagged, that's identified, and that bill then isn't paid until we get verification as to what that is. Now, at the end of the day, that's up to the assigned counsel to determine, is it correct? You know, were there different circumstances with this case that signaled a need for 50 hours versus the average being 20 or 25? So those are the things that we've outlined to the auditors, and I know we've been working on it a day and a half, and I just sent it to Dan and Daniel earlier today, and so they haven't signed off formally on it yet. When they do, then it becomes part of our procedures going forward.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give a further explanation of that for you.
And then just one last question. On page 5.4 of the letter that we received from you, it said, after reviewing the billings that were flagged for detailed review and the responses from the attorney supporting the work in billing, we conclude the attorney bills were fair and accurate. Is that still your opinion today?
Are you talking about our letter or the letter that was provided by the county?
The letter that was provided,
Like with the county letterhead?
the county letterhead, correct?
That was their position, yes.
Okay.
Meaning the county's position.
The county's position.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Based on Mr. Bosonic submitting a list of changes that are going to take place, actions that are going to take place so this doesn't happen in the future, what about what has already happened? Is there any recommendation for a deeper dive forensic audit to determine whether or not there was any kind of fraudulent behavior based on at least 2 of these attorneys?
Sure. So we feel like if the county is still uncertain that the billings seem in excess, then we would recommend them not just accept this for what the hours are showing.
Yes.
So your report and conclusions, I think you indicated, is not a forensic.
Correct. Our team was brought in a consultative basis. We do not have the qualifications to do a true, what we would call a forensic audit. We would recommend you bring in an actual forensic team that specializes in that type of review.
And I remember, for example, and we can't get into the weeds because this isn't a forensic, was your October review indicating these 2 top tier contractors, and I say the top 2, not meaning some qualification, but hours
Most
billed.
Correct.
You didn't know whether this was their only job, if they were just assigned counsel or assigned counsel and private attorneys, correct?
Correct. We were looking strictly at the hours billed to the county. There was no outside determination whether that would be reasonable.
Isn't it true in that letter in October, you indicated the hours you saw that were reported were particularly high, even if it was just one thing?
Yeah, so we provided an estimated number of hours worked per week. So for attorney 1, it was 56 billable hours per week, and that's if he worked every single day of the week, or every single week of the year. So we would assume, based on those type of hours, that those were the hours that he was working in totality.
I think your most current report indicated that individual, in addition to the 56 hours, weekly average work, included at least one day of 23.8 hours.
Correct. There was one day, based on the invoices provided from that attorney, that it equaled 23 point, what you just stated, yes.
And I don't want to beat the dead horse, but there were 16 days over 20 hours, 66 days over 16 hours, and on down the list, and that this amounted to over 5,500 hours in less than a year and a half?
Yeah, the average that we stated that it looks like they billed in each year was just shy of 3,000 per year hours.
3,000 per year.
That's correct.
So what is the average work year hours per year?
For an attorney or just in general?
Just in general.
Well, if you're a 40-hour-a-year employee, it would be 2,080.
So 2,000 hours is an ordinary,
If you work
Work year.
40 hours a week, yes.
and this was 3,000,
That's correct.
and you don't know if this is the only thing they're doing.
That was not part of our scope.
So that scope was pretty narrow and didn't cast a wide net
Correct. We did not consider that.
because it wasn't a forensic.
That's correct.
And your recommendation is if we have questions on these different things that, I mean, you're not, and this isn't a slight to your firm. You're crunching the numbers that you can provide. You're not gumshoes. You're not
Detectives.
You're
yes.
not detectives.
That's correct.
You're accountants. You're the back office guys that sit pretty in
That
air
sounds
conditioning.
fairly derogatory, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not trying to be derogatory.
We're
but,
just accountants.
well,
But
I
yes,
mean,
that is correct.
But without disrespect, if we're looking at things that, I mean, the data doesn't lie. And so if you have numbers that seem to raise an issue, especially when you're adding them all up and you're talking $600,000, or I'll put it in perspective, we got a former prosecutor in our attendance. Now, I don't know if we have the prosecutor, but the entire Monroe County prosecutor's budget is about $2.5 million. So you have one vendor who is billing almost 20%, and I'm an attorney, so I'm taking some liberty with numbers, and I don't need to be fact-checked down to the 5% range. You got one person who's billing almost 20% of an entire Monroe County prosecutor's office, which is about a dozen attorneys, support staff, their books, their membership, their dues, their staff. Wouldn't that raise to the level where a reasonable person looking at the data would say, I think you need to cast a bigger net to make sure everything is right for the taxpayer?
So we did provide the days that we felt like needed further examination. So that was the basis of.
Yeah, I felt like those were answered in there. They said it was on a per basis of who accepted the offer per email,
that's-
and he had a much higher.
You're 100% right. That's right. But what
And they
he's
changed
also
that
saying,
process.
What he's also saying is, we are not detectives. We're looking at the data set we got, so we don't know what else is going out there. We don't know of other work and other things, and that's what I'm saying needs to be required because we're looking at the dollar amount. Is it accurate? Is it really what it is? Because they don't have the resources to see if this attorney was working private cases. They don't have the research, and I'm not a forensic auditor. I don't know the questions. All I know is that if a person has their nose to the grindstone, it's a 2,000 hour per year benchmark, and I'm looking at someone who's already beat that by a half. And I don't know if they're doing anything on the side. It raises a question, and I'm going by that October opinion that said this is pretty high, even if somebody's only doing just this one thing. And we have a fiduciary duty, and this has raised my attention, and it's not in a vacuum. I've had many people bring their concerns to me and say, listen, in my role, we used to review these things. We don't since the change. There's nobody reviewing this. This is kind of the honor system, and when you kind of take the cat out of the game, maybe the mice play. But we won't know until we get a person that our accountant said they can't do the forensic. And then I'll just tell you, I bring some experience. I was one of these attorneys at one time. And so I know what's reasonable or not. I spoke to both of our corporate counsel. I spoke to Mr. Graham and I spoke to Mr. Goldsmith, and they have said in their own words on the topic that, Commissioner Levens, I think you have a right to be concerned about this, and a deeper dive is required. And that's all I'm asking. I want to make sure I'm earning my salt. And at the end of the day, the bills we approve are fair and accurate on behalf of the taxpayers and the integrity of the justice system, and that hasn't occurred yet. I'm glad they haven't found anything blatantly wrong, but there's enough here on the core numbers to look where there are other matters being represented at the same time that, and again, I don't have the forensic vocabulary, double dipping. I don't have those tools, but I know it needs to be looked at. I'm sorry.
Can I just?
Commissioner Hoffman and then Commissioner Moore.
Okay, thank you.
What's it take to do a forensics? What are we talking? If we got some crooks out there, right's right, wrong, wrong. And if there's fraud here, I think we should get it exposed and get it taken care of properly.
So our
We need a
firm,
motion here or something, or?
Well, let's see what the.
I was just going to say, so our firm does have a forensic arm, but we would recommend, just due to independence, that you not use our firm, just to make sure there's no independence or situation. But there are firms that we could recommend that if that's a desire of the county.
What
That
firm would you folks be suggesting?
there would be a couple I could provide. I mean, do you want a name tonight or?
You get all dressed up for nothing.
Okay. So I would say Plant Marianne would be a good organization to contact.
And I know the county's engaged Plant Moran in the past. I remember for computer things, I mean, they're a pretty plenary outfit in the resources they provide.
Very quickly to respond to you, Commissioner Levens, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I think we do have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that there is no corruption or fraud going on. I just want us to be very careful when we throw around those terms, because what's being explained to me, I've actually gone through that. As a realtor in my first 3 years of real estate, I was accepting $50 and $60 and $70 report jobs, and we paid someone to accept emails all day long, and we performed more of these $50 reports than anyone in the state of Michigan. I did $500,000 gross in 1 year, and I had realtors and bankers going, "How are you doing that? You're cheating. That's fraud." And we said, "No, we have full-time drivers. We're doing everything digitally. We have full-time typists. We have full-time brokers that are looking at it, and we've made it to where we're doing such bulk that it's making it profitable." So when I see something like this where it's, well, look, we didn't have enough attorneys, whoever this attorney is, he's accepting most of it. I just want to make sure we go in and give the benefit of the doubt where it's due, and not go in and say, okay, we're looking for fraud, you need to find something. If we do it a forensic, I would hope that whoever we hire brings back the facts, right? Like you were saying,
I
Henry.
want to be very clear. I'm not alleging fraud.
Okay.
I'm not alleging corruption. I am asking for clarity. It's been a drum I've been beating for over a year and a half now, and I found some success. I complained to the Hills for a long time about getting a sobriety court. And candidly, I've found that I'm rewarded when I keep asking for the same thing over and over, that eventually it comes to pass in collaboration with the various folks. So I use that example. I have been asking for the due diligence in a while because I come from a background. I know how this works enough to be dangerous and to see triggering numbers. I just have a concern. So I want to be very clear for this record today. If I have misspoke in the past, which is entirely possible, or if I misspoke in the future, which I promise, I am not alleging fraud or corruption or anything. I'm alleging, I am concerned about numbers that don't seem to math. And I've looked at this and I've been asking people from the very beginning, make this make sense for me. What I'm seeing. And what was alarming is when I first drew my attention, we saw invoices that were starting from a couple of vendors to break away from the pack. I mean, if you look in the claims list, you'll see, they run somewhere in that $3,000 to $7,000 a month mark. And then all of a sudden, a couple actors, went to 10, to 15, to 20. And if you recall a year ago, when I started pointing out, they said, well, they're making up for the prior month. And the more I asked about it, and nothing happened, well, the bigger the numbers got. And they ballooned from 15 to 30 to finally, in September, I think there was one for $87,000. And each time I asked another question, it was turned around. That wasn't that they were catching up for the last month. It was a software glitch. Or it's they didn't, that isn't really 23 hours in one day. They worked on a weekend, but they're afraid that somebody wouldn't believe they worked on a weekend, so they put the hours on another day. That's fraud. Well, that's an issue in itself if you're not putting numbers on the exact day. And then we were told when we had the expert, whose name always escapes me, I apologize, from the MIDC, said you can't bill for staff. And I have heard conflicting reports. Can you or can't you bill for staff? Because I'm going to tell you what, if you say you can, Leavens Law is going to hire 15 paralegals, and we're going to go to town if that's going to be the rule. And that's a joke. I would never do that. The issue is we don't have these answers from a person that is a detective that can do it, and we owe it to the system, to our taxpayers and the rest, to get that finality, to get that real answer, so that way we're not having the same conversation for another 15, by goodness, months. This is ridiculous.
Can we make a motion then for some? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Make the
I'll make
motion.
that motion
Go ahead,
unless Dave's got something to say.
Go ahead, Dave.
I just, if you look at the 3-page letter that you have with your letterhead on, would you elaborate on your conclusion? Because this conclusion's not throwing up a red flag.
Yes, so the conclusions are the items that we felt comfortable opining on because we were only looking at the data. So I guess the conclusions with the providing the data set in a readable, like those were our conclusions. Like, this is what you're saying by day. And if you feel like that seems unreasonable, then that would be for the county to determine.
Well, you look at number 1, it says the bills could be explained by the rounding rule, which was understood by the county. And then you look at number 2, the total number of hours was supported by attorney-provided invoices.
Commissioner Swartout, can I interject without interrupting? I read legalese, and it says may be explained. Whenever you get a professional says may, that's a flag. If it says is or shall, that's when you're resolved. Anytime you see may, you have to ask questions. That's just my rule of thumb. May means uncertainty.
You had a second question, Commissioner Swartout? Did you have another question?
No.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Moore has a motion.
Commissioner Moore?
No, I was wondering if we could have a motion then to have, by the next meeting, have a list of independent forensics with the prices, or is that something you guys are trying to move on tonight?
I would like to make I don't think an initial forensic should be more, from doing this, so throw up a hand, interrupt me. I'd like to, someone to throw a motion out there to have Plant Moran to begin its work not to exceed $15,000 for the forensic audit and get their preliminary. I don't want to have a big budget for something. If they get into it and they say, hey, this isn't going anywhere, I'd like to end it sooner than later. But does that make sense? And so we get a preliminary to come back and go from that. But I have a more learned member of the profession approaching with a purpose, it seems.
I have a purpose. Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman. Over the last few days, I've spent a lot of time trying to research this and get to the bottom and what I would recommend. And I've talked to our director, Mary Gantos. I've talked to Melanie Young. I have spoken with Nicole Walter, our MID district director. I got a lot of good information from her. So what I would suggest is that we attempt to define the scope of the forensic, because the information that I've been able to gather, I think would be useful in talking with whoever does the forensic. I'd like to be part of that on behalf of the board.
Well, I think the challenge is we don't know. That's the expertise that the forensic person brings in, because we've had these conversations going last summer, and I remember you looking at that time the invoices saying the invoices on their face look okay, and that's the old adage the forest for the trees. I think we're ready now to have somebody go through and independently exercise their profession and do this. A forensic auditor worth their salt knows what to do. They know how to do their subpoenas. They know how to crunch the numbers. They know a detective. The victim doesn't tell the deputy how to do their investigation, and you come from law enforcement, they just do it. When we're hired to, represent that person in a civil or criminal matter, we do it because we have that skill center. So if our trusted folks from Raymond say that Plant Moran, and I believe they said that, have a forensic person that can do this business, I say they do it. And candidly, I don't want any more of us lay people stirring this pot indefinitely. I want a person that does it, do it. And if they don't know how to do it, then shame on them.
I don't disagree with anything you've said. I think we could, what I'm saying is I think we could assist them. It's, when you look at 23 hours of attorney time billed in one day, that's going to obviously raise eyebrows because that's a physical impossibility. And when I hear these concepts of bundling, and I've never heard that before, that's come out of this situation, that's a term that's foreign to me, and I don't know how that can be properly applied to billing. What I'm saying, let me back up.
Well, candidly, the forensic person is going to contact you. They're going to contact the MIDC. I mean, that's going to be part of their due diligence. That's going to be part of the process that I think we all would like to put behind us and get done today. I mean, they're not going to work in a vacuum.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting, that I think that people like Nicole Walter and others can be of help to them because, like you, I have a background in this too. And when I looked at it, a lot of things crossed my mind that need to be looked into, need to be investigated. A lot of good has come out of this, and you started that when you raised those questions in terms of what's being done now. But we've got what happened before, and is this appropriate? And are there other things that need to be changed? All of those things. So I'm just suggesting that I think I can be of help to get to the bottom of it. That's all.
Mr. Goldsmith, can I ask you a question? When you had your conversations with Nicole Walter, Mary Gantos, and Melanie Young, was there anything in the conversation that would cause you to say, let's put this to bed, everything is justifiable?
No. I think additional work needs to be done. Okay. And that's just the way I feel about it based on what I've seen. The billing, I want to be careful here, but the billing practices were sloppy, very sloppy. And I think it put everybody at a disadvantage of trying to determine whether or not these bills were appropriate, a great disadvantage. When you get the 23-hour mark and things like this and these concepts of bundling, which that's foreign to me on how billing should be done. And so to directly answer your question, no, I don't think it's done yet. I think the improvements have been made that are very good going forward, but I don't think we're done yet. Henry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just I wanted to support you in the thought that I think additional work needs to be done so that everybody is satisfied how this billing was done, whether it was appropriate. Questions that you posed, I asked to Mary Gantos and Melanie. What in terms of one attorney's practice, is this all that attorney is doing? Because if he's billing on the average of 56 hours a week, attorneys that have been in practice for a period of time know that to bill 56 hours in a week, you probably need to be in the office working about 75 hours a week. So is there other practice areas that this person is engaged in? So I'm not satisfied that we should be done with this. And so,
Just one additional question: is bundling and and rounding up and counting the work done over 3 days, adding it up for the same client, is that ethical per Bar Association standards?
well, I've looked at the rules of professional conduct, and Nicole and I have talked about that. And until we get a clearer picture, I don't like this term bundling to begin with. I mean, I don't even know what that means, Commissioner.
That's the first I've heard of it. And,
Yeah.
and by comparison, a lot of professions have limits on how many hours you can do a day. Truck drivers, have a log. And I'm going to tell you, and I would hope you confirm, in our line of work, after a certain period of reading and doing the focus we have, you're not an attorney anymore. You're a zombie. There is nobody that's going to spend 16 hours doing the level of work that we do, that the 17th hour is going to be of the same value and character as the first hour.
That's all true, and you and I have both worked 16-hour days, and still
recently.
and still do, with meetings and when you're in a trial, it's just out of necessity. But you're right, there becomes a point of diminishing returns, and so to answer your question, Chairman, I can't give you a definitive answer. Nicole and I talked about that, and there are some concerns